Hey George, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just
Oh,
been overly crazy with many things going on. Unfortunately, I'm on service at the VA, so it's challenging.
uh-huh. Well, I hope it works out well and quickly.
You know what? It is. I always think, you know what? I'm on this end, meaning I'm able to help.
Right.
That's always, Baruch Hashem, the better of the choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
Yeah,
are.
yeah, very good. How about yourself? How are you?
Baruch Hashem, all is well. No complaints.
My favorite statement to that is, and if you complain, still nobody listens.
This is true. It's true. It's a bracha levatala, as they say in French.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. I I had to go through this process of renewing my ID for the VA. And you know that old adage, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
Yep.
That's it's so big. I mean, I respect a lot of the people because I've really seen some very capable people. But at the same time, it makes you crazy when you're trying to get things done and you have to keep going back and back and back to get things organized and arranged.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think we're at 285, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So too, 285. Other Rishonim assume that the halacha cannot be like the first possibility of the Gemara, as the Gemara rejects this possibility. Even though the catalyst for this rejection is Rav Yeshua ben Levi, our Gemara does not question this rejection due to the fact that Rav Yeshua ben Levi is not accepted as halacha. We're dealing with the issue of what activities are you allowed to do before mincha. Tosfos writes that the second possibility, which was that the Mishnah only forbids particular time-consuming activities. So starting these activities forbidden close to Mincha Gelola, despite the lengthy amount of time remaining to daven. Let's see, Tosfos, b'tispor ben alasha, that's a special haircut. Near it, the hachi hilchasa, that's the halacha. V'shori suda ketana b'mincha gedola adzman tefillah. And you're allowed to have a small meal between the time of mincha gedola and the regular zman tefillah, which is mincha ketana. V'davka suda gedola considers like a wedding meal would be osir. Would look Ravacha bar Yaakov the osir afilu sudas ketana, not like Ravacha who forbid even a small meal. Samach mincha gedola. The halacha kalishna kamod, this is Sosulanu Ashas, Ravashi, Shehu Basra. Ravashi was the final editor of the Gemara. Sidir Sashas, Veilchaz Kavas, the Gaber Ravach Bar Yaakov, the halacha is always like him. Umiyu Samach Lemincha Ketana, right? 9.5 hours of the day. Then you may not eat. Asr, Afilusu Ketana, and if it is Chilu Mafsikin. So there is a time so far that Tosfos is saying at 9.5 hours of the day, you should not eat until you daven. The Rif writes that the halacha follows the last possibility, which was to forbid even simple activities close to mincha gedolah. Hai samach lemincha sikta de samach lemincha gedolah. When the Gemara says mincha, it means mincha gedolah. Afilu b'tispor done. Even our simple haircuts. V'lachatchila ma'ilo gzeir. V'lachatchila amaylo. So why l'chatchila not? Gzeir Hashem yishbar azug. Maybe the scissors will break and it'll take longer. The Shulchan Aruch follows the Rif and rules l'chumra. Lo yeshiv adam listaper samach lemincha. You shouldn't take a haircut about the time of some mincha gedolah. Ad shispalo. V'lo yichdas lemerchatz. You shouldn't take a bathhouse. Lo laburski. Don't start tanning leather. V'lo ladin. Don't start a bezdin. You should not have a meal prior to mincha gedola. If you started these, eino mafsik. Even though you started b'isser. As long as as long as there will be time at the rest of the day to daven. If there's no time, you got to stop whatever you're doing. However, the Ramah quotes the more lenient view and reports that the custom is to follow the leniencies. But he expresses some reservations about being too lenient. Ramah says, Yesh Cholkim, this is his commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, and he's referring to Tosfos, Tzvirle de Sudik Tana Mutter, that a small meal, small meal is a regular meal. Going to a wedding is a big meal. Veina also rak b'sudas nesuin or mila or bris. V'yesh omer dafilu sug gdola samach lamincha gdola shari. Some see even starting. Some say even starting a big meal is permitted. Yesh omer b'sudas ktana filu samach lamincha ktana shari. That you can even start a small meal, even next to mincha ktana, 9.5 hours. And noagu lahakel kishtei svaros. The minig is to be lenient regarding both of these. The hainu b'sug gdola samach mincha gdola. You can start a big meal at 6.5 hours a day. Uv'sug ktana samach mincha ktana. After atam, yishum da'achshav korn lebeis hakneses. Now we announce it in shul before davening that the davening is going to start. We're not concerned that people will be negligent. Some are machmir, not if they're going to sit down for a big meal, they'll daven mincha first. If mincha ktana comes and it's getting late, according to Ramah, the custom is to allow beginning a large meal, such as a wedding feast at mincha gedola, and a smaller meal, such as a Shabbos meal at minchas ktana, at least where someone will remind everyone to daven. But he concludes that one should ideally be machmir, not to begin a large meal close to mincha gedola. The Isha Yisrael, who is a contemporary posek, and he's malaktate, records this as the practical halach as well. Thus, Ashkenazim, who attend a wedding or bris mill in the early afternoon, should ideally arrange a minyan to recite mincha before beginning the meal. Because of this chumrah, not to begin a large meal close to mincha gedola. Says the Isha Yisrael, Asr l'haskil lechol suda gedola, avshel mitzvah, even a sudas mitzvah, to go on sudas nesuin, or sheva brachos, mechatzos hayom. Once chatzos hits, you should daven mincha first. Achis pal tfilas mincha. V'chein chatzi sha'al lifnei tzesa kochavim. Achis pal tfilas arvis. Once you're within 30 minutes of tzesa kochavim, you shouldn't eat until you daven ma'ariv. The Ramah here raises the possibility that the lenient custom stemmed from the fact that there was a designated method of being reminded to daven. Well, now we have WhatsApp, so that could be another method. As mentioned, the Ramah was not willing to rely on this when eating a large meal. But the Ben Ishchai, a Sephardic posek in Baghdad in the late 1800s, applies this leniency even to wedding meals. V'nyan asuda, hine po irenu makilin b'sugdola shel nesur mil v'chayotze. Here, in Baghdad, they were lenient. By weddings or mila, they would not daven before they ate. And even the time of mincha gedola, mincha ktana, 9.5 hours passed, they continued eating. There are people who are not eating bread or drinking wine. The Rak Tomim says they're just eating a small amount. Because the Not everybody ate at the wedding. Some went home. V'lachein elu chashive k'mo shoimrim. The maskirin shar mesubin, they were like gabbais who would remind everybody to daven. V'makol oichel v'shoisim tov shesim lem shoimer echot sheina oichel v'shoisim on k'dei she'askirin. If everyone's eating, they should designate like a designated driver who's not going to eat or drink to remind them about davening. Yochid ha'oichel b'veiso achar she'giz man mincha ktana. Let's say he started eating, and now the mincha ktana came. Yaniach shomer k'dei l'kayim divrei Chazal. He should also set up a guard, maybe an alarm. Maybe that would satisfy this din. However, Rav Yitzchak Yosef commented that his father Rav Ovadia criticized that. Umaran Amor Shlita Heirad Varav. He commented on the Ben Ish Chai. Masha Kosev Shaminik Lakel Besudik Dola Fil Achaz Min Chektana Hu Kula Yaser Beina. He thinks it's too much of a leniency. Ulefi Anias Daiti, in his modest opinion, Bezeh Ein Lem Al Mashi Smochu. They don't have to rely on. Shreasma Haramo. The Ramah said, he told us not to eat a big meal prior to Suda Gedola, prior to Mincha Gedola. They don't let you start a Suda Gedola before Mincha. So we already mentioned that the Ramah's inclination to allow a small meal may stem from the fact that someone was designated to remind everyone to daven. Today, most people eating a meal at home have not appointed someone else who is not davening, who is to remind them to daven. If so, is it still permitted today to eat a meal in the late afternoon before reciting Mincha or at night before reciting Ma'ariv? The prohibition to eat before Ma'ariv and Kriyat Shema is not discussed here. We'll discuss it the next year. Contemporary poskim suggest two possible methods to permit eating a meal prior to these tefillos. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is quoted as proposing that setting an alarm clock can serve as a modern type of reminder to daven. Kinun Sha'on, preparing a watch, Sheyashmiat Tziltzul B'Shasa Yehuda, that'll ring at the appropriate time, Le'in Achila Kodem Atfila Ma'ani, will work. Im Yadua Shashon Takin, if we know the clock is working. Aval Le'in Shina Ein Lismach Al Kach. But you shouldn't, if you can take a nap in the afternoon prior to Mincha Ktana, the alarm is not a good thing for that. The Aruch HaShulchan suggested that one who prays on a daily basis with a minyan can also be relied upon to go at the proper time, and he will not miss it due to his meal. Not only that, we have these WhatsApp groups that are constantly reminding us the minyan is at this and this, are you in, are you out? I would think that would suffice it as well, like an alarm. The Aruch HaShulchan was being melamed zchus to the people who would eat even after Mincha Ktana, before davening. The Kamosh is barley el simin peites lini limod korem tefillah shachris. What about learning before shachris? You might get so engrossed in your learning that you'll miss shachris. The mispal b'chidus aser limod, that if you're not davening in a minyan, you can't learn in the morning. Yeshema asilam shuchi, he's going to get involved in a very interesting toisvus. He's not going to want to leave. The aver's man tefillah will miss man tefillah shachris. Avil berogil is pal beis hakneses in the morning mutter. So he says ochanami kenu as well. By mincha it works. The zesh also called advorim zeh b'mispal mincha b'yichidus. Ava b'mispal b'minyan alo kishiyas sefer minyan be'echrech lo yishkach lispala. He's not going to forget when the minyan gathers. Uvadai svar gdoli. It's a big svar. L'chein mishen mispal mincha b'tzibur. He says if you're going to be by yourself you should daven mincha before you eat. The kosher achar zman said certainly after the zman. So that's a big advantage to people who daven with a minyan. What about haircuts? The Magen Avraham, cited by the Mishnah Berurah, adds another reason to be lenient. If the barber has a spare scissors, we are not concerned with the possibility of the first scissors breaking. Because we're concerned the barber is going to run out to the market, get another scissor, v'yavar mincha. But if after sheyesh lo shnayim or shlosha, zukim shor is permitted. The Ben Ish Chai writes that for this reason, if there's a spare pair of scissors available, it's permitted to start a haircut even right before mincha ketana. He adds that for mystical, non-halachic reasons, some do not have a haircut in the afternoon, even if they've already davened.
By the way, footnote 39 is very interesting.
This leniency of regular tefillah with the minyan is mentioned by other contemporary poskim as well. Rav Shlomo Zalman in the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa interprets the Shar Tzion as allowing tefillah in a set minyan when the Shar Tzion writes that there's no concern that what davening minyan will miss it if he learns to start home beforehand. Rav Moshe Feinstein was asked whether those who daven regularly set minyan for Marv late at night and eat beforehand may also do so before counting Sfiras HaOmer. Rav Moshe answers in the affirmative and does not write that it's forbidden to eat before davening a set minyan. On the other hand, Rav Elyashiv, his quote, is forbidding such a practice. Okay, so there's a machlokas achronim regarding that issue about Sfiras HaOmer before eating at night. Now, regarding the haircut, the Ben Ish Chai, even after the time of mincha ketana, there was a leniency to start a haircut because the barbers had spare scissors. He says, "Mikol mokem yirei shamayim yachmir bekach mishum d'lavach al pisod." Through some kind of kabbalistic reason, lo nochon listaper acha chatzos avu pishis pala mincha. He says, in general, you shouldn't take a haircut after chatzos, even though you daven mincha. It means you should take your haircuts in the morning. That's pretty unusual. The Minchas Elazar claims that in reality there is no mystical reason not to have a haircut after midday. This idea is based on a misinterpretation of the practice of their result. The Minchas Elazar was the Munkatcher who lived like in the 1930s. Uvesider Ha'ari Lohaya Mesaper Achar Zman Mincha Gdola Shu Chatzos Hayom. He wouldn't take a haircut after Mincha Gdola. Vafilu Be'erev Shabbos Hayanizer the Chashav Kvot Toroso Haramod Zeu Mipnei Sha'az Shlitas Adinim Biyoser. That it's because there was, bad midas adin. Ine Yislach Li Kvot Toroso Haramod L'daber zeh ki eino mishum tam zeh klal rak ha'ari hichmir b'nei mincha gdola shegiz manav lo yispal adayim. He wanted to say that the problem was not because of some kind of kabbalistic thing, but because he didn't daven. Others, such as the Tzos, allow taking haircuts for a different reason. Namely, that haircuts today take much less time. Therefore, one can assume that the haircut today will not be delayed in a manner that would cause you to miss mincha at the proper time. Gam li'staper imod debar davar likane somach lemincha ketana v'lai lefishin eschatshub izmanenu kliyas parim. We have better instruments. Ve'ena roim b'chushi of avodah kala. We see that it's an easy job of regoyim achadim in minutes. Nikmar yistaprus. V'gam dechalil lanu l'chadesh chaluki midatenu af b'tzir fadeh b'shulchan aruch shesudik tana muter somach lemincha ketana. Why are we being more stringent? The Shulchan Aruch himself said you can eat a small meal before Suda Ketana. And that should be the same as our types of haircuts. So the Piskei Teshuvos concludes that one may take a haircut in the afternoon nowadays without any concern for whether one has already recited mincha or not. Other activities. We saw earlier, the Mishnah presented a list of activities that are forbidden for reciting mincha. Is this list of activities an exhaustive one, or does it include others? The Meiri quotes an opinion that although the list may not be exhaustive, only specific types of activity is forbidden. That's before Shem Kosfu, Shelo Nesru Melacha B'chol, Bizman HaSomech L'Mincha Gdola Derech Shizbar. It's not prohibited to do work during the weekday, close to Mincha Gdola. Ela b'melacha shena regilos asiyos l'chatzoin. But only those activities which normally don't get interrupted, like haircuts and tanning. You can go to sports or bursikish machashat choshesh lahefsed oiris. You're going to lose money with the leather. Hechyafsik, ukresu ben shenav, and his bid is still in the teeth, working hard. The odd shadarkam haya lilbosh b'adim tsoim, but also they wore dirty clothes. Then you have to take them off and wash. You're going to give them, take its time. If yachzik, I'm not so tanning was a problem. You're talking about a Beis Din, we have witnesses. He doesn't want to stop. But sewing and writing, it's very easy to stop those things and go back to him. The Miri understands that the prohibition only applies to activities which are difficult to interrupt. You know, you're going into court, you can be in court for 5 hours straight. In that case, you should daven mincha before. The Magen Avraham says, "Afilu liyune be'alma." Just to look at a tannery, shemiyirish neskal la'oris v'yitztayer, v'yitor b'tzarav v'leispalo l'mashmash u'adin l'chol malach cheshbon kiyotz. Any activity you could get sort of caught up in, and it could delay. According to Magen Avraham, any activity which has the potential to become drawn out and cause one to forget to daven, even if it does not occur regularly, it's forbidden to begin before mincha. The Bir Halacha, the Mishnah Berurah writes, in a case of need, you can rely on the leniency of the Miri. But tzatzi b'Miri shekotzav me'inyan zek, tzatz b'forshim kotzav shlo nesra melacha b'chol, mizman hasamach, some did not prohibit other activities, ela b'blachu she'en regilas asiyos l'chatzoin, except for those things that you can't stop in the middle. Omnam mistimas lashon mariv she'ivia Magen Avraham, mashma d'sfir le'sheb'chol melacha osur. So the Mishnah Berurah gives us a leniency if it's a Shasat Chag. The Isha Yisrael rules, in accordance with the Bir Halacha, that ideally one should not begin any activity that could potentially last until after the latest time for Mincha. But in cases of need, one may follow the Meiri. Half hour before 6.5 hours of the day, you shouldn't start an activity that might get prolonged. If the activity is going to pass Shkia, we're talking about, which is Manfilas Mincha. Now, a malacha that you think you could complete, you can't start. The you might the object that you're using to do your work may break. He gives b'shas hatzorech, you can start a work that is easy to stop in the middle. The Pnei Halacha Rav Melamed offers 2 practical examples of activities that could potentially be included, and also notes instances when these activities would be permitted. Leficha, lo yaschil b'avodah shekasha lafsika b'emsa. You shouldn't start a job that's hard to stop in the middle. V'siyum alul imoshech alachar sof zman tefillah. And even if you went back to it, or you might, even if you have to fix something, it would extend beyond the zman tefillah. Something will break. Fixing it would extend arachar zman tefillah. You shouldn't go to malls. You're gonna shop till you drop there, and that's a concern. V'chein lo yelech lischos, don't go swimming. You might miss mincha. If you're not going to forget, you're at a place, they announce mincha. You can do anything. If the job site's going to close way before Sov Zman Mincha, no problem. Go shopping in a place where they would announce mincha. Or you tell your friend to remind you. Or go swimming in a pool where the pool is closed before Sov Zman Mincha. A person swims a certain amount of time every day. 30 minutes, and then you're going to be finished. All these are things that he permits. Accordingly, one should not go shopping or to the pool of chatchila. One might not return in time for mincha. Since one does not normally split up those activities, you could not rely on the leniency of the Miri. Nevertheless, if the store or pool closes before the time for mincha, one sets an alarm or reminder on one's phone, or one normally davens at a set minyan for which one knows when he will plan, he will plan to return in time. It would be permitted based upon the sources we have seen. What about women and tfilas mincha? We discussed in volume 11 about regular tefillah. We discussed women's obligation for tefillah. In this section, we'll summarize some of the points, particularly those that pertain to mincha. According to some opinions, like the Rambam, Magen Avraham, women are obligated to pray on a Torah level every day. However, they are only obligated to recite a short paragraph. And they are therefore not even required to recite all of the Shachrit Amid, and certainly not that of Mincha. Says the Shulchan Aruch Noshim Avadim, Shavel Pi Sheptur Mi Kriyas Shema V'chayovim B'tfila. Even though they're parted from Kriyas Shema, they have to daven. The Neshe Mitzvah Saseh Shlo Zman Grama, it's not really tied to time. Says the Magen Avraham Ken Kosav Rambam. The Sfirle the Tefillah Mitzvah Saseh Deraisa Hi Dichsiv Ula Avdo B'chol Avavchem Ach Mideraisa Dai B'Pam Echad B'Yom. So that's why it's every day, so it's not necessarily tied to anything specifically. V'chol Nusach Shiyirtze. L'chei Noga Rov Noshim Shem Spalos B'Tmidus Mishum De'Oimri Miyad B'Boiker Samach L'Tila Eze B'Kosher. They say Moidani Umideraisa Dai B'Zeh. On the other, the Ramban maintains that women are obligated in tefillah on a rabbinic level. And this obligation includes reciting both chakras and mincha on a daily basis. The Mishnah Berurah rules in favor of this. That's why you see many seminary girls, when they come back, they take upon themselves to daven mincha on a daily basis. That's a Ramban Shikar Mitzvahs Tefillah Midivrei Sofer. The Anshe Knesset Gdola established the Shmon Esrei. L'spalel also in Shachris u'Mincha Choiva, La'arvis Rishus. Mariv was not an obligation; it was a Rishus. We've now accepted it as an obligation. Aval Bishu Mitzvah Semidivrei Sofrim Shezman Grama, and normally Noshim Peturos Mikol Mitzvah Shezman Grama Afil Midivrei Sofrim, because the Ramban is learning that it's in the morning and in the evening, morning and the afternoon. So it's tied to time. And women normally are potter. For example, Kiddush Levana. The Mishnah Berurah says that the Rabbanon obligated women to daven Shachris and Mincha, to Mo'anoshim. Hoyel utfila hi bakashas rachmin. Davening is, you're asking for your health. You're davening for life. Everyone needs that, men and women. V'chein ikar, ki chein das rov haposkim. V'chein kriya b'sefer shagas aryeh. So he's bringing the heavy hitters in. Al ken yesh lizor l'noshim sheyispalel et yudches. They should daven the full Shmon Esrei, Shachos and Mincha. Even according to Mishnah Berurah, Women that are unable to recite mincha due to responsibilities taking care of children or work are exempt, as noted by the Piskei Teshuvos. V'aminik l'maisal pia oirasam shel Gdol Yisrael mekademes dana sheisha ba'es she'ein ituta biyadeh. Women, they don't have their own time. This panos, this pal keseder tefillah b'mtinas yushav adas, to take the time kavana kitruda b'nyanei abayis. They're cleaning, they're watching the children. B'gudul yadev l'ntzos teref l'beis v'chadome, shopping. Rishais lismach l'magen avram listapek b'tefillah ketzar pamachas. They can rely on the magen avram that said one small tefillah once a day. B'yom hakolel bakasha shvach bodah, that includes asking something, praising Hashem, and thanking Him. Like pamachas b'yom. Is bamiras birchas hashachar yoytzes yidei chovoso b'shvach v'kasha v'odaya. You fulfill all of these. But tomar zos baboker od kodem achilosa. She should say this before she eats. The nachon shetei amir gam posuk rishon shel kriya shma. The hainu ubarach shem. K'dei lekabel ol malchus shamayim. Uve'eit asher itoteh b'yadeh. If a woman has a lot of time, ve'ein hadavar al cheshbon tzarchei bala, and it will not come at the expense of her husband or children. He agrees with the Mishnah Berurah that if she can do it, she should do it. Machshava, we saw early in the Shir that the Torah highlights the uniqueness of Mincha as being that it is recited in the middle of the day. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein cited his father-in-law, Rav Yosef Ber Soloveitchik, who expanded upon the philosophical implication of this approach. Masbir agreed Soloveitchik. Shetfilas mincha shona b'mausa. Mincha is different ishachris v'arvis than the morning davening and the evening davening. Adam is pal shachris of neshiyot zavoda. Person davens shachris before he goes to work. Is pal arvis achrei shechoyzer ma'avodah. He davens b'ariv after he comes home. Eshtenu mispalal b'ktzavas hayom. These two are at the extremes of the day. Kloimer, Babayis, or Beis HaKnesses. Either at home or in shul. Now, as Tfilas HaMincha Lumazos, Umispal Be'emtza Yom. Mincha is Be'emtza Avodah, in the middle of work. Tfilas Umisameles, Es HaShiluv Shel Avodas HaYom, Im Avodas Hashem. It shows this synthesis of daily work and your occupation and service of Hashem. Avodas Hashem ain't a davar amenutak ma'yisak hayom yomi. It's not. We don't live a dual life, occupation and avodas Hashem. It's one thing. It's not menutak ma'yisak hayom yomi. It's not separated from our daily activities. Ein lafrid bein masha lemoiseh lemechiyaso. We shouldn't separate from what a person does for his parnasa. Umasha oiseh bizman apanui. And what he does with his free time. Everything relates to his avodas Hashem. With all of his actions. He's worshiping God in the field or in the factory. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch discussed the philosophical underpinnings of the approach that Mincha's uniqueness relates to the fact that it comes towards the end of the day as the sun is setting. The history as a nation, and even in our personal lives, there's something sinking, the Gorala era. The shadow of declining fortunes, rather in the shining light of rising prosperity. Aleinu lilmod al kein shuv v'shav lahafkid b'yad Hashem b'lev chafetz hadaga la'asolos Hashem v'yayin. We should leave it to Hashem to provide for our parnasa. Even when we are subjugated. Liftoch gamaz b'mishal Hashem hamechanechet haovet labia zot al yedei tamid. The beautiful language of Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. Regardless of which approach we take with respect to mincha, specifically, both messages are crucial ones to internalize throughout life. Rav Soloveitchik teaches us that despite the pressures and importance of earning a living and our other important mundane activities, we must remember to place our tefillah and overall service of Hashem at the top of our list of priorities. Rav Hirsch teaches us that even when we feel that the sun is symbolically setting and our personal or national lives are on the decline, we maintain our faith in Hashem that He will provide for us and protect us, ensuring that we will all have what we need. May we merit to incorporate these messages into our daily recitation of mincha and our lives overall, thereby achieving an enhanced spiritual state of being and in a closer connection to Hashem. This is a comment that Rav Hirsch made on Tehillim. Okay, let's start our Tfilas Ma'ariv, page 313. Is Ma'ariv obligatory? Well, we just learned a little bit about that. We learned that Shachris and Mincha are choiva, and Ma'ariv is a reshus. Right? Mincha, in essence, has the same halachic status as Shachris, despite the differences between the two. As opposed to Shachris, Mincha is relatively short. It also contains a special quality of being recited in the middle of the day, but they're essentially the same. Both of these prayers were instituted to correspond to the daily Korban Atomid, brought in the morning and afternoon. By contrast, Tfilas Arvis, known as Ma'ariv, was instituted to correspond to the burning of those limbs and fats of daily sacrifices that were not consumed during the day. This fact led to a major dispute as to whether Ma'ariv is obligatory or voluntary. Remember, you're not always going to have limbs. Remember, an Ola is completely burnt. So Shechita of a Korban had to take place and Zrika during the daytime. So if you did the Korban Ola in the morning and everything had to be put on the Mizbech, usually that was burned. Now, if the Mincha, it's possible that the limbs were not fully consumed, it would continue to burn at night. They're not always. So that's the issue of whether the Tfilas Ma'ariv, which is connected to the burning of the Evarim U'Pdorim, would be considered a chayv or not. Let's see the Gemara Brachos. Tfilas Ha'erev ein lakva. It's not fixed to a specific time. Ma ein lakva. Ile midi boy matzli kula layla view. Does that mean you can daven whenever you want at night? Listen, you should have said simply, Tfilas Ha'erev kol halayla. Elamai ein lakva. What does it mean? It doesn't have a set. Kemandomer Tfilas Arvis Rishus. It's referring. It's not obligatory. It's according to the Mandomer that says you don't have to daven Ma'ariv. Daven Ravi Damar Shmuel. Tfilas Arvis. Rabbi Gamliel Omer Choiva. Rabbi Shua Omer Rishus. Omer Abai Aloch Kedivra Omer Choiva. The Rava Omer Aloch Kedivra Omer Rishus. Now, all of you know through our Daf Yomi, whenever we have a machlokas between Abai and Rava, we always paskin like Rava, except in 6 places, Ya'al Kagam, which there are 6 Edim Zomamin, there's Yehu Shalomidas, there's 6 sugyas. There's over 350 Havayas of Abai and Rava and Shas. Over 350 times when Abai and Rava argue. We paskin like Rava in all of them, except for those 6. So here also, we paskin like Rava, who held like Rav Yoshua, that Ma'ariv is a reshus. The standard rules for deciding halacha dictate that we follow Rava when he disputes a baya, which in this case would mean that Ma'ariv is voluntary. The vast majority of Rishonim corroborate this. One exception is the Ritva, who writes that as no one besides Rav Yeshua Shav Rav Gamliel's position, that Tfilas Arvis is compulsory. So we have the Ritva who argues. This was if you remember, Rabbi Gamliel got thrown out as the Rosh Hashiva. Rav Yoshua had told his student that Marv was Rishus, but he denied it when Rabbi Gamliel confronted him because Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. But Rabbi Gamliel already heard that he had told it to the student and disagreed him. And so he shamed him by making him stand an excessive amount of time. This led to the whole throwing out of Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azari was appointed. When we say Areani Kivim Shana, that his beard turned white because he was only 18 years old. By the way, Rabbi Gamliel was brought back. He was only there for a week, Rabbi Elazar ben Azari. Then Rabbi Gamliel was brought back. Rabbi Gamliel had also made it very difficult to attend the yeshiva because Tocho Kaboro, your inside had to be like your outside had to be like your inside. It means you couldn't be a false person. It was very difficult to be a student under those circumstances. So, but Rabbi Yeshua was more lenient and let more people in. Tosfos says, Tov lo ispal arvis, mispal b'shachris shtay. If you didn't daven Ma'ariv, you have to say twice. Shachris. Im toimar. Von Rav l'kaman tfilas arvis rishus. The kaimelon kavose. So we paskin like Rav on Isurim. The all kasha dover l'kaman tov lo ispal yalav v'yova b'layla. Let's say you forgot yalav v'yova during Ma'ariv. Ein machzir noso. Mishum de mekatrin es hachodesh b'layla. They gave a reason because we don't do Kiddush HaChodesh at night. Lamalei. Why did they have to come with that reason? Tepokle did tefillas arvis rishus. Why should you repeat Yalav if you miss Yalav Yov? The whole thing is rishus. That's if you have there's another mitzvah to do. And mitzvahs Ma'ariv, it doesn't take precedence. The Yoverse. Tefillas arvis. But for no reason, you should not skip Ma'ariv. So according to Tosfos, all agree that Ma'ariv was always compulsory under normal circumstances. The optional nature, according to Rav, applies only if reciting it would prevent you from fulfilling another passing mitzvah. The Rif and the Rambam seemingly understand differently that originally Ma'ariv was indeed fully voluntary. So the Rif and the Rambam argue with Tosfos. So Machlokes Rishonim. Tosfos says all Ma'ariv was chayva right away. Rif and Rambam say no. It later became accepted as an obligation. Says the Rif, the Kaimelon, the halacha karava, right? We paskin like Rava. Mi yu'anim miliyechi delot sali leklal. Aval hecha de tzoyle letfis arvis kvar shavi alech chayva. If someone had never started davening Ma'ariv, fine. But if you're a person with davening Ma'ariv, it's become an obligation. The toy hodel l'reisha. And if you make a mistake, you got to start again in the Shemona Esrei. Amar Rava, tov lo hisker shalosh chodesh ba'arvis, ein machzir noso shem mekatches l'chodesh. El b'yom. If you missed Yalav Yov and Ma'ariv, you don't have to repeat the davening because there's no Kiddush HaChodesh at night. V'shtamina minei shim tov ba'arvis b'Shabbos or b'yomim tovim. Shemachzir noso. So if it was, if you made a mistake in Arvis on Shabbos or Yomim Tovim, you would make him go back. I mean, Nami Tov l'Ispal Arvis, Mispal Shachris Tayim. What about the fact that there's Tashlumim that if you missed Ma'ariv, you would say 2 Shachris in the morning, and it's Divrei HaKolhi, and the Halek Laman the Palik, no one is arguing. Vafilaman Dama Rishus, Choyvehi the Lessa. Even according to the view that it's voluntary, and there's no choiva, but it's still aval mitzvah. So there's a mitzvah. So today, everyone is taken upon themselves as an obligation. So today, everyone understands that it's obligation to recite Ma'ariv. But there are some ramifications to the fact that in its essence, it's only voluntary, as we will see later on. Okay, so this is the beginning. We sort of dipped our feet into Ma'ariv. And this will also be Kriya Shema Lamita. So I don't think we'll finish this in 1 week. We'll probably required 2 or maybe even 3 weeks to finish it. We will learn next Tuesday night. I will be in Israel, God willing. But we'll do it at 8:15.
Ernie, are you here Shavuos?
I'm here, Shavuos, yes. I'll be back, coming back. I'm only going for a week to Israel.
Oh, Yom Yerushalayim?
No, I'm going for a bas mitzvah of my granddaughter in
Oh,
Renata.
yeah, Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
No, I will go to Yerushalayim. My granddaughter is graduating Choreh.
No, I say he asked you about Yom Yerushalayim.
Oh, yes, the bas mitzvah is on Yom Yerushalayim.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
No.
So 2 weeks we won't have because it'll be Shavuos.
2 weeks we won't have,
For Shavuos.
because it'll be Shavuos, yes.
You
Okay,
know, one thing to say about tonight that I never thought about, I must say, and this caused me to think about it for the first time. They didn't have alarm clocks in those days. What did they do to make sure they got up, like for davening and tefillah? I mean, we sort of
Roosters.
we took it for granted. I know they had roosters, but you
No,
know,
they
roosters
have
can't be
people-
set programmed to the exact time.
they had people going around there,
Yeah,
like by slichas, they used to
Right,
go
by slichas.
knock on doors and things like that. And you see, they designated a person when they went places not to eat or drink. So the person was the alarm clock.
the designated davener.
But by the way, the Ktsos, they brought the Ktsos, who said, "Oh, we have good clocks." The Ktsos lived in 1650, so you
Oh,
could see
Ktsos,
the
yeah.
Swiss.
They had watches going back a long time.
I don't know. You're talking about 15. You're talking about the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
That's the Swiss. I mean, he's in the 1600s, and there's already good alarm clocks. That's pretty good, right?
I mean, we know, for example, that in terms of going out at night, they never did that. People didn't go out at night. Like when we talk about lighting Hanukkah lift with Sheminisa, when people are going to the streets, there are no street lights and it was very dangerous. So it's very different today. And I think alarm clocks may be another thing that is very different than it was then. It's just that society is different because of that one fact.
Yeah.
Forget about phones.
You
The
see,
first alarm clock was invented in 1787.
okay, so the Ktsos, I think, is before then.
It says.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay.
Maybe they had a watch, but
You see, the Shlomo Zalman said that having an alarm suffices. So our phones, if you set an alarm and you have WhatsApp reminders and things like that, I think that's clearly a leniency that we have. Like Yaakov said, modern day is different than in our own. You see, as we go through these sources, you see the change, historical change, absolutely. Okay, very good. So have a good week, everybody.
You well, take care.
I'm going to be in the
Thank you.
valley, God willing, this Shabbos. So I might see you in Shabbos.
Is your passport all set, Ernie?
Yeah, they're going to let me in.
You're gonna have to get it stamped, I'm telling you. All
Or a visa.
right.
Be well. Okay.
Have a good
Cool.
It's
have a
a new-
good time.
that's the new law,
Jerry?
you know. That's the new law.
Right. And the laws, even going to the valley, you're going to need one of
no.
those
Right.
stamps.
And
Serious
all of
about
your
Israel.
immunizations up to
Israel, you
date.
need now. Israel from now on, Israel, you need to apply for a special visa.
Starting August
It's not a
1st.
visa. It's very easy. It's going to
That's
be.
that form.
It
if you-
costs
yeah.
not
Nothing is
25
easy. Nothing is easy with Israel. Okay,
I think
And
it's
by the
gonna-
way, if you do it in June, it's good for 2 years and it's free. If you wait
Free.
till August 1st, it's 25 shekels. The requirement starts for Americans August 1st. So I just
Okay.
gave you a tip to save 25 shekels. You can give it to tzedakah.
Yeah, Ernie, something interesting about alarms says Indian warriors could determine in advance their hour of rising by regulating the amount of water drunk before going to bed.
You have a urinary alarm
Yeah.
clock.
urinary
Yeah,
alarm.
The
Yeah.
urinary alarm.
I mean,
wonder if
I'm
that
telling
worked
my
in Middle Age,
patients,
too.
I tell my patients all the time, don't drink anything after 6 p.m. So they drank on purpose, so they knew
Yes,
it would
they
wake
were
them
to wake
up.
up.
Nice. The
night.
a urologic simon.
Ernie, when you tell your patients they're not allowed to drink water, but at least they can drink something else, like a little whiskey or something after 6
That's
p.m.
worse. You understand? Let me tell you something. When you drink 100 cc's of water, it's going to stimulate 100 cc's of urine. If you drink 100 cc's of whiskey, you make 500 cc's of urine.
Well, how about coffee?
Alcohol is a diuretic, the natural
Coffee too?
diuretic. No, caffeine irritates the bladder. It makes you go, it irritates the bladder, but alcohol is definitely a
Wow.
diuretic.
Well, good to know.
In
Okay.
case you need to go,
Free
you
medical
need to have
advice
a little
while you go to the
bye.
shirt. Love it. Be well. Take care.
Right.
Yeah.
Bye.